Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Raven here. Today we're going to do episode 10 of Eric slash Maximilian solo campaign. When last we left off, we were sitting inside the cave talking with our new friends as the night went on. And so that is where we will pick up. And as we are in the cave talking throughout the night, talking about different things, getting to know each other, deciding who's going to do guard in which time slot, things like that. Everyone goes to sleep. It's our turn to guard. And as we are guarding the cave, we hear a rustling sound coming from deep within the cave, which makes the others start to toss and turn. And we start to get worried about them waking up, but we're not too worried about what the sound is because we're pretty sure that we know it's our void's creature, that we made friends with. And so, as we're sitting there, we randomly feel the void's creature lick us on the back of the arm and nuzzle up to us. And as it nuzzles up to our lap and we start petting him, we end up falling asleep. And then we wake up to the sound of people screaming and panicking, and the echoes of it going throughout the cave, and the sound of like stomping on wet rock from them stomping around while they're flailing about, screaming. And as we wake up and come to and see all this happening, there are companions, Finlynch, Gracia, Alex, and Folix are all pointing and screaming and panicking at the void's creature that is laying on our lap with us partly wrapped around inside of its vines, as if we are being engulfed or assimilated together. And as we open our eyes and my brain starts to turn on, and we're like, stop all the yelling. You're giving me a migraine. The sun's not even up yet. What are you doing? And then we almost fall back asleep. They start screaming more, and one goes to take a step forward, and as one goes to take a step towards us, we hear like a roar. And as we hear the roar echo and vibrate throughout the cave and our body, they start to back up, all four of them, and panic and sweat as the roar perks us awake, and we try and get up, but we can't and we look down and we notice that our void's creature is laying down asleep on us, and as he's asleep, his vines are not as tight as they normally are. They're like loosened and just like some of them are like falling and laying down on our lap. And we realize this is what they're freaking out about. And so we put our arm out and we're like, hey, it's all right, guys. This guy's a good little dude. And they look at us and let's roll to see which one speaks. 2. We'll go with Gracia. So she starts to stutter as she says, that's not a little guy. Those aren't supposed to be real. And as she says this and begins to faint, we stand up real quick. And as we stand up real quick, his vines wrap back up on him, and he just like lays down onto the ground as we run over and catch her from falling and smashing her head on the floor of the cave. And as we catch her and skid our knees up, and everyone starts freaking out and like looking around and like staring at the creature, they all begin to draw their weapons. Excuse me. And as they draw their weapons, he can hear, the Vine-Wreath Voids can hear and smell both the sound of the weapons being drawn and the smell of their fear and intent to kill. And that wakes him up, and he turns around and he starts growling, and he perks up the like vines on his shoulders that begin to unwreath and untangle, and they start to come up like 4 tendrils, 2 in between the shoulder blades and 1 on each shoulder blade, as they all attempt to attack him. And as they let's see if any of them, 11, 17, and 19. Okay, so 2 of them would hit. But, let's see what 2, 3, and 2. So, well, Gracia can't. 1. Alright, so Finlynch and Alex both attack, and as they both try to leap forward, thrusting their swords, the Vine-Wreath Voids just steps to the side and lets them trip over themselves and fall, as it uses one combat point to dodge one, and 1 combat point to dodge the second attack. And then as that happens, Folix just begins to laugh and like chuckle a little bit with his hand over his mouth, trying to cover up his smirk at them tripping. And I start laughing a little bit as well, And me and Felix lock eyes and just like nod, like in agreement that that was funny. And then the Felix notices he like puts his hand out and he goes, "This thing would hurt you if it wants to." And as he puts his hand out to try and step forward, we're going to see if he can pass a fear danger check to pet the creature or not. And that is a 9 plus, I think he's got a +2, so that's only 11. Yeah, so unfortunately he's too afraid to walk any closer, but he puts his hand out and he realizes that the creature didn't attack, and so he's not as afraid of it now. And as this ruckus is all going on, and Finland and Alex are trying to like attack the cat, and the Vine Wreath Void just keeps jumping back and forth. He thinks they're playing with him, and every once in a while he'll like take one of his vines and extend it out and like smack him on like the back or the leg or something, or like grab an ankle and just like trip him real quick or push him over, or stuff like drag him to him and like roar in their face and then go and put them back to where they were. And we'll say this goes on for a good 20 minutes until Finland and Alex are just completely exhausted, and they're leaning over and they're panting and they're like, "What is going on? Why can't we hit this stupid thing? And why is it not trying to kill us back?" And that's when I look over and I say, "Because I told you guys when I woke up, he's a good boy." And I put my arms out, and as I put my arms out, the Vine Wreath Voids runs and jumps and pounces onto me and knocks me and knocks me over, and not remembering that I had Gracia in my arms. As I put my arms out, I accidentally drop her, which wakes her up as she thuds onto the ground, and she sees the Vine Wreath Voids start barreling towards us, which causes her to scream and faint again as he jumps over her to pounce onto me and start giving me licks as I'm petting him. And then everyone is shocked in amazement, and as we're like giving him scratches and stuff, we let him know about how we found him while we were out in the forest last time, and we stayed in the cave with him, and he helped us survive for like 3 days, and we trained with him, and we have feel like we have like a bond, and like I can sense when he's around, and he can sense when I'm around, and we'll just explain all that, and they start to calm down but stay on edge. And then one of them, let's see, 3, so Alex pipes up and goes, well, we should stop fooling around and eat some breakfast so that we can head out and get a move on. We still have lots of forest to explore, and we need to get to the academy before our trail begins to shift and the 4th week comes up. And so we all nod in agreement. We pull out some rations, we eat, and then we get our stuff all packed up and we start to head out. And as we are heading out and we're walking through the woods, it's a nice day. It's still early, the sun is starting to rise. We can still see the fog in the sky and feel the moisture and the dampness caress our skin as the cold breeze blows through our hair. And as we're walking and we come around the corner of the forest, we notice that the trail looks like it starts to zig a little bit, and so we stay on guard. And as we come up to the other corner, I send my voids up forward because he decided to come with us. And as he goes around the corner, I feel like a sharp pain in my head as my vision begins to go blurry, and I drop to my knees. And as I drop to my knees and grab my head, my eyes and vision go black. And as that happens, I begin to see what's ahead around the corner, and it looks like there is a trail with a big opening. And right as I'm about to notice what's in the opening, I hear a scream, and then my vision goes black again, and I fall onto the ground, and I see and taste dirt as I sit back up. What just happened? And everyone's like freaking out as they see me like hit the ground and grab my head and scream, and like no one knows what's going on. They think there is someone or something that is using mental attacks, something near. And as I come to and take my hands off my head and try and put my arms out, they grab me to help me not be stumbling and stand still. And I look at them and I go, that was weird. I think I just seen part of the forest. Whatever. That couldn't have been. And as that happens, we're going to continue to walk forward. And there, Alex and everyone is asking if I'm alright and what happened, and I explained to them that I don't know what happened. All I know is after I sent my voice forward, my head started to hurt and all that. I explained that I seen, and as I go to explain what I seen, we come to the opening and that I seen, and my character goes, and I seen this, and everyone goes, what do you mean this? And I go, this opening, this is what I seen. And I heard a scream. Though the screams were probably us, because it looks like there's not anything in this opening except an old campsite with a fire that looks like it's probably at least 2 weeks old. And as we all notice this, and we just continue to go forward because there's nothing here, we get up to where the new tree line is, behind where people had left their tents, and it looks like they stomped out a fire and just ran off. There's their fire pit, there's 2 tents, and there's still some kitchen supplies, like they were cooking and something happened and they darted off. And as we're passing by and we notice that, we stop and start to, let's roll an investigation. Let's see if I have anything in. Nope, I do not have any bonus to investigate, so this will be a flat roll. We'll say a 10 to notice where the footprints in the mud lead. And that's a 13. Nice. So we notice that the footprints in the mud do in fact lead this way. And so we decide to follow them. And as we're, let's see, 17, nice, we're able to keep following them. Nice, we keep, and as we are following these footsteps, not really like paying attention to much else, we end up coming into an opening without even realizing it. And as we come into this opening, and let's see if the footprints disappear or not. It's a 4. So as the footprints disappear, we look around and we're like, what's going on? Like, what? How can they just? Oh my fuck! As we look up, and as we slowly bring our head up, looking, we notice a giant serpent, twice, if not 3 times bigger than the rose thorn serpents that we seen our first day in the woods. And as this massive snake sit there towering above us with one human kid about our age stuck to his thorns on around the probably a little behind the jaw, just hanging and dripping in blood, screaming, still partially alive, with another wrapped in his coil with the thorns impaling him from all around like an Iron Maiden as he's screaming in terror. And the snake comes down and bites and rips and tears him in half. And as that happens, we all begin to freak out and scream, "What the fuck is going on? What is this thing?" And as I begin to panic, my voids can feel me panicking, and it immediately leaps forward and wraps its vines, tries to wrap its vines around the serpent. Ooh, that's a 19. That is definitely a hit. Where's my D8? And that is a 6 plus... Where is our voids? Yeah, plus is 12. So, alright, so that's 18. And we're just going to do that for all 3 of our combat points. We're going to, bam, so we're going to throw out our vines and and we're also going to take 2 times 3 for the spikes hitting us in return. And then, so as this happens, the Vine Wreath Voids lets out a roar because it hurts as he wraps around the snake, but he's using his vines to mostly wrap around like the thorns themselves to try and pull the snake down and like hold him in place. And as this happens, the snake begins to hiss and get angry, and it lashes its tail out. And as it lashes its tail out, that's a 6 plus. It's so, alright, so, and then it lashes its tail out. And as it lashes its tail out, it sweeps across the entire battlefield like that, hitting all of us. And as its tail hits one of us, they get impaled on its tail. As it hits another, it gets impaled. As it hits the third, they get impaled. And as it hits the fourth, which is me, we get impaled. And as we're all 4, like, impaled on different spikes throughout the bottom of its tail. It then sweeps its tail back the other world in a other way in a violent flicking motion to like flick us all off and throw us backwards around here. And as he throws us, we all hit the ground and start coughing up blood. And as this is happening, we look over, and the companions that we had just met the other day, Finch is bleeding out, holding his stomach with a massive hole through his stomach. And Gracia is holding her shoulder. It looks like the spike got her in the shoulder. Alex is dropped down onto his knees, holding his throat, choking as he falls over face first into the dirt and dies. And Folix is not there. And as we look over and our vision slowly comes to, we get up and wipe the dirt off and begin to cough, and we can feel the heaviness of our breathing, and then suddenly our breathing slowly gets better and the heaviness leaves, and we look down, and as we're like looking down before we glance our head up to look, we notice that the hole in our lung on our right side is closed as we watch our skin twist and slowly like close itself back up, which makes us just whatever, we're just, like seeing shit. And as we look up and notice, we see Finlix's body spread on the spikes of the snake, as he has one spike coming out the back of his head and through his eye, one through his chest, and one through his left ankle, as he is still pinned to the serpent. And as we notice this, Finlix and Gracia both begin to scream and panic and cry, and I begin to hold my head as I can feel the rage begin to overtake. And as the rage begins to fill and well up inside me, Finlix and Gracia look and say, This is really how we die. I haven't even made it to Magic Academy yet. Mother and Father are gonna be so disappointed in me. they both say that the snake comes down and bites Finland. And as it bites him, let's just make sure it gets him. Yeah, that still gets him 5 plus 12. And he is, let's see how much. Yeah, that is enough to kill him. So as it bites down and it rips, and Finland's body gets torn in half, and his blood begins to spray from the bottom half of his waist all over, and the blood from the top half of him begins to drip all on top and in Gracia's hair as the snake brings him up and over her to swallow. She begins to scream before fainting, and as she faints, the snake goes to attack her. Oh yeah, and as the snake goes to attack her, I'm going to use one of my combat points. I'm going to use all 3 of my combat points. 14, 15, and 13 plus my 9. Yeah, so that's enough. And also, as the snake goes down to bite at Gracia, I swing my sword twice and throw my shield at its eyes. And as I swing my sword twice at one spike and I chop it off, the snake screams and stops going down as it turns. And as it turns to look at us, that's when we throw our shield in its face. And as we throw our shield as a distraction, it bites forward and snaps and explodes the shield into pieces in its mouth, and then it screams out as splinters of the shield are now lodged on the inside of its mouth as we point at it and scream, "Good boy, it's your turn." And as we scream that, we hit our knees. And as we hit our knees and then go down onto our hands, our vine wraith voids comes and leaps over us. And as he leaps over us, let's see, he uses 1 combat point to hit with his vine and grab on, and he'll use another combat point to use his movement to maneuver and swing and land up onto a spike that's up next to the snake's neck area where there aren't as many spikes, so that it don't stab itself in the face region. And then it's going to use its last one, to go for a bite attack right in the throat. And as the Vine Wreath Voids goes to bite at the throat, and it sinks its teeth in, the snake lets out a huge hiss as it begins to, how do I explain it? thud up and down and like wiggling around as it's getting bit. And as this is happening, the snake uses it. Alright, as this happens, the snake brings its tail up and it wraps it around the vine wreath voids. Okay. And as it wraps it around the vine wreath voids and tries to like use its spikes to impale it, the vine wreath voids just like unvines itself and like falls to the ground. And then as it falls to the ground, we start screaming and panicking as we think it was just killed, as the snake is hissing and going down and taking and biting and throwing up into the sky the second half of Finlix as the blood begins to fall from the sky and the body comes down and the snake catches it in its mouth. Our eyes go black and we begin to get filled with rage. And as this happens, we feel a darkness dwell within us, and the darkness blends with our mana as our mana begins to fester and bubble on the outside of our body and take the shape of a crow. And as the crow flies forward, it unleashes a squawk that is so piercing. The serpent screams as its ear holes burst and begin to... as its ear holes burst and begin to bleed. And as this happens, it disorientates the snake and it starts looking around and it starts screaming out a terrifying hissing sound that is super high pitch. And as this happens, the crow swoops down and claws at the eyes of the serpent, clawing one of them completely out and grabbing it in its hand as it claws it out. And as it grabs it in its hand and goes to fly away, the snake lunges forward and snaps down as everything goes dark and the crow is now inside the snake's mouth. And as the crow begins to slip and slide down the snake's throat, it decides to use one of its special powers, gravity entanglement, as the snake's throat is hit with a burst of weight and gravitational force as the skin and a hole in the snake is burst and ripped forth, as blood slowly and explosively in all directions begins to scatter and rain from the sky. And as the snake falls over and hits the ground, the crow flies over back into my chest, and it begins to dissipate as the tattoo of the crow begins to now become visible on my chest for all to see as I pass out in all the blood and carnage with the snake's eye in my right hand. And with that, we will end there for tonight. Thank you all. I hope you have enjoyed this session. Like, subscribe, share for everyone to see, and join us for more adventures.